All right, a couple of things today with quiz coming up tomorrow. So we've got solve by factoring, and we've also got doing a division problem. So we'll come to that. We'll do that kind of after we get through these. So solving by factoring. If you notice, these two problems are extremely similar. One of them is a sum of squares because you're adding two perfect squares, and one of them is a difference of squares because you're subtracting two perfect squares. This is kind of a shortcut thing that the rules for these are sum of squares are going to give you imaginary factors, difference of squares are going to give you real factors. So if you remember the little rule here, this is just going to be whatever the root of this is, which is 5x, and then whatever the root of this is, so plus 6i. And then we're going to have also 5x minus 6i. And so anytime you have one of these sum or difference of squares problems, you're going to have matching factors where one's positive, one's negative. And then if it's a plus, they have to be imaginary. So let's go ahead and factor this one, then we'll talk about the solutions. So this one is going to be just 5x plus 6 and 5x minus 6. Extremely similar problems, but also very, very different because this one's going to have this one's going to have real solutions, whereas this one's going to have imaginary solutions. Now, what are those solutions? Because this problem does say solve. Okay, if it just said factor, then you'd be done at this point. But it says solve by factoring, meaning you want to give what number makes this equal to 0. So if you don't know, and if you haven't noticed, there's a little shortcut to this too, but if you don't know, just take the problem, so 5x plus 6i, set it equal to 0, and solve it for x. So if you did that, you'd subtract the 6i over, so you'd have 5x equals negative 6i, and then you divide by 5. So it'd be 6i over 5, or 6/5 I, however you want to write that, 6/5 I. And then if you think about it, sorry, it's negative, my bad, didn't say that. If you think about it, this one's going to just be the positive. They're always going to be opposite answers. So we just know we're going to get opposites of each other. And as soon as you get whatever the fraction is, then you know you got your answer. In this case, it's 6/5 I. Now, you could do the same thing down here, or you could just think about it and be like, okay, yeah, this is just going to be 6/5 negative and positive here. So we get that answer in the same sort of way by setting up and solving for those values. But really, once you've done it once, you know you're going to keep getting the same 6/5, either negative or positive, depending which signs you have. So there's your solve by factoring problem. So remember, these usually you're going to get two answers. In this case, they're just opposites of each other. And if it's a plus, so it's a sum of squares, you get imaginaries. If it's a difference of squares, you get real solutions. All right, so then to jump over here to this quotient problem. The way you do division, you don't really do division. You take whatever the conjugate of the denominator is, and you multiply by itself over itself. So remember the word conjugate, we're talking about you take this and you keep the real part the same, but you change the sign on the imaginary part. And then you have to do a lot of distributing. Okay, so from here, we do our distributive property and we see what we get. So I'm going to just kind of write it here as we go. So I'm going to get 12. I'm going to get minus 6i. I'm going to get minus 8i. And I'm going to get minus 4i squared. Okay, cool. Down here, 16 minus 8i plus 8i, that's a good sign, and minus 4i squared again. All right, so what does this all simplify to? The i's there will cancel, and then remember, anywhere you have an I squared is going to just become the number -1. The I will be gone. So this one is 12 plus 4, so that's going to be 16. And then negative 6i minus 8i is a negative 14i, okay? And this would be 16 minus negative 4, so like that's going to become plus 4, which is going to be 20. So I've got that as my answer. And we always want to write this in that a plus bi format, so we really want to break it up into the two, the real part and the imaginary part. So really it's this, it's 16 20ths minus 14 over 20i. And then both those can be reduced or simplified down a little bit. So your kind of official final answer, these are both divisible by 4, so that's going to be 4/5. These are both divisible by 2, so that's going to be 7/10. And there we go. So we get ourselves to our answer there. Okay, those ones take some work. They take a little bit of time, a little bit of work to get them all figured out.